Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Airbus A321. I hope this video finds you well, where we are about to conduct this very strange, unique, perhaps it's difficult, maybe not, I've never tried it, approach. It is a visually prescribed track into Napoleon Bonaparte Ajaccio. I hope I've said that right, in France. That's the northernmost island of the two main islands that you see sitting off the west coast of Italy in the Mediterranean. This here is what I was just trying to say. Try that again. Good. Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte Ajaccio, France. Visually prescribed track Alpha runway 20. There we go. And so we are currently flying on a regular flight. We've actually just dropped down from Nice on the southern coast of France. And we are making our ways towards this waypoint here, idle. There's actually a star that takes us to this point. And that's this one here. We're not far away. If we was to turn our icon on. In fact, there we go. Here's the beginning of the star. We're right on top of it at Lonzo. So we'll be following it to there. After there are no more waypoints. We are to get on with this. In order so that things don't run away with us, what I think I'm going to do is set the aircraft on a hold. Actually, we can get a hold in at Lonzo so we can carry out the briefing, and then we'll go from there. You can see top of descent is a little while away. So let's go ahead and get the flight plan in. I've got to remember how to do this in the bus. There we go. Hold. And it's going to be a right-hander, 1 minute computed. Temp that in. That looks good. And let's go, because we're almost right on top of it. And with that, we'll zoom in. And I assume the aircraft will slow down. In fact, we'll do it on its behalf. All right. And so with those little bits and bobs out the way, let's go ahead and begin the briefing. Unfortunately, I will be unable to engage with chat on this one because it's just going to be so busy. And so, as we've said, we are on the arrival here, the Lonzo. Let's zoom in a little bit there. We're here on the arrival on the Lonzo to November. And that will bring us all the way to this waypoint here, idle. From idle, it is the visual procedure only in. That's this one here. And in order to begin, we want to be at idle for 4,000 feet. Or let me rephrase that. We want to be at idle at 4,000 feet. We'll assume that it says 3,000 by ATC. We'll assume that's not the case. And so a few things to note. First of all, again, these are no points here. The only point here is idle and the runway itself. Everything else is a visual track. But we do have a couple of pieces of information. The first one here, we can see we've got this 7.7 DME arc based from AGO. Okay, so there is a VOR beacon here. I'm no longer going to embarrass myself with the names. But in any case, we need to draw a circle 7.7 miles away from this VOR beacon. I'm not sure if the Airbus allows you to put in 0.1 nautical mile increments, so we may need to draw the circle out to 8 nautical miles and just touch the very edge of that circle. I know in the Zebo, or should I say the Boeing 737, you actually can. Either way, so we'll go from idle at 4,000 feet to the edge of the circle to this point here known as Point Yankee. And we can see that is based off a radial, once again from the same beacon. So we'll try and get a radial out there. That signifies the start of our turn to the left. Now, we are a Category C aircraft. That means we will be on the left-hand side of these two tracks. The inner track with the tighter turn there will be for your Cessnas and whatnot. If we zoom right in, it's kind of difficult to make out. I wonder if it's a little easier. In fact, it might be a little easier in night mode to make out. If we see this black land area here where it touches the sea, there's actually this little bit of land that sticks out. And this point here coming back to the normal view, begins the start of what we'll call our downwind leg. We see that gives us a track of 0 to 2 degrees, 22 degrees, and that is to be carried out for 4 nautical miles. That takes us then, at the end of that, we want to be descending. Clearly, we've got to watch out for the hill here. There's actually no exact height it gives us to be on for, but we do see at the end of the turn, at Point Charlie, it wants us to be 870 feet. So we definitely want to be descending down from 4,000 feet while we're doing this, making sure that we're well clear of this point here, this peak at 1,661 feet. You see there, we do have a speed restriction, 180 degrees, and then there is another DME arc here, 4.2 DME, and that is the edge of the protected area, okay? Due to these peaks, we cannot extend beyond there. So what we're going to do is remain within 4.2 miles, and again, if we can't put the decimal 2, we'll have to restrict ourselves to 4 miles and fly right on that line, and then we'll know we're actually within 4.2, and that is based off, if we take a look at here, actually the DME that belongs to the ILS. The ILS is for the runway clearly that points in the other direction, but we can use the distance measuring equipment off that ILS to give us an idea of this arc. So we're gonna go ahead now and try and tune some, because I'm never going to remember all of that. So we're going to try and tune some of this into the approach procedures and then see if we can make it work. And so the first one, idle window, we're going to go there. We're just going to check in that we've got the height once we was to exit this hold at idle for 4,000 feet. So what I'm going to do is where idle is, we've got this altitude constraint here from 4,000 up to 10,000 or flight level 100. I'm going to override that and just put 4,000, and that's it for me there. All right, so we'll make that change like that. The other thing, therefore, I want to do, and I think what we'll do is by the end of this, we'll let it go one more hold, and then we will come out of the hold. We'll be fine. So let's go ahead. And again, this is all visual, so we won't have any sort of guidance on the aircraft once we begin this. So we will require on this. So let's put an 8-mile arc around AJO, seen as, again, we can't put 7.7. So let's come in here. Left side, fix, reference, Alpha Juliet Oscar. There we go. And the radius, I will try actually 7.7 just in case it does accept it. No, it does not. And so let's go for the 8 nautical mile. There we go. I'll tell you what, we'll what's this? Actually got a fault on the autopilot. FCU 2 fault, barrel ref check. Okay, I do have faults enabled, but they're set to be kind of rare, so that's is a little unusual that we get a little fault there, but that isn't going to interfere with what we're doing, thankfully. Alright, so there's that arc. I'm just going to put it onto the plan mode so that we can see what we're doing. We'll zoom out the arc a little bit, come back to the flight plan, and move it over the area in question. Alright, zooming in. And so there's idle, that's our final waypoint, and there is the runway itself. It's just, the Airbus is literally just drawing a line from the final waypoint, giving us a little sort of a custom fix to the final approach. And again, we're going to have to ignore all of that, so we'll have to turn the flight director off. Anyway, there we see the first arc, and then from this point, or point Yankee, we can see there is actually a fix there. We want to head outbound from that, again on a heading roughly, or a track of 0 to 2 degrees. Actually, it's 038, just for it doesn't give a distance. It's based once again off radials for days. Let's see if we can get those 2 radials in, AJO. So we want radial 337 and 347. So let's try that. So once again, off the fix, page 2, AJO, radial 337 and 347. And so as we cross radial 337, that's going to be our cue to fly 038 degrees. As we cross the radial there 347, that's going to be our cue to fly 022 degrees. We'll use the bird to do this, and that ensures that we fly the track exactly, and it will self-correct for any wind and whatnot. We'll just have to keep an eye on the distance then, because let's have a look. How do we know we've done the 4 miles from that point? Well, we know not to exceed this arc here, and we also see this, hopefully we'll see these peaks here. So once we see these peaks on our left-hand side, we know that is the cue to begin turning. We've got a speed restriction there, 180 knots or less. We'll be well under that. I think I'm going to be wheels down, flaps 3 by the time we commence this turn. Alright, so the next arc then is based off the ILS, and the code for that is Alpha Charlie. We'll have to see, hopefully we can put an arc in from Alpha Charlie. So let's go to point 3, the reference AC, and it's going to be the one that's 68 miles away, so that appears to be working. And again, because we can't put 4.2, we're going to round it down to 4 nautical miles, and basically we'll allow ourselves to fly on the circle, which will obviously be 4 nautical miles away, no further than, and that way for sure we'll be inside 4.2 nautical miles. That brings us all the way around to Point Charlie. We need to be 870 feet, and then it's 202 in line with the runway for landing, and there is an NDB there for guidance 365. Roger, what am I talking about? Romeo Bravo. And so we'll go ahead to tune that now, actually. So Romeo Bravo, left side, and it's going to be this one, and we'll do it on your side as well, left and right side. So the NDB is hard tuned. The ILS Alpha Charlie, and we'll just tune this in for purposes again of the DME. And then the VORs, if we have any. No, we don't. Oh, we do have this one actually. AJO. And then we won't have the the Airbus automatically detuning things at worst possible time. Alright, I think that's going to be it. We're set up. And so with that, let's go back to the arc. And looks like that's perfect timing. We're just about to come up to the next turn. We are now going to exit that. And with it, we're going to fly now direct on to... Let's have a little look. Let's go direct to Bebev. Alright, direct to Bebev. Here we go. And with it, we'll go back to manage mode with regards to the speed. Top of descent around 15 miles away. We're picking up pace, that's fine. And so last but not least, then let's go ahead and get the performance numbers in for the approach. So here we are on the approach. QNH 1013, temps 15, wind 0. Barometric 1260. Is that actually right? The minimums here, or the MDA, is, well, it's daytime only, so we're not authorized to do this at night, which is why I don't have live time on, because it is currently nighttime here. I say here, I'm in the UK, obviously France is not too far away in terms of time. They're an hour ahead. Yeah, so the MDA is 4,000 feet, 3981 on the radio. We're just going to go with 4,000, so we'll bang that in there. I will make sure we've got the latest weather. I've just got simple weather on, just light clouds, visual conditions, because I don't want a strong tailwind, a real world tailwind screwing up the approach that we've got. ATIS 126930. Let's have a listen. 126930. Was that right? 126930, 126930. Let's try 925. There we go. can barely hear it. I heard QNH 1013. Alright, all that I heard was wind calm and sky conditions clear, so that's going to do for me. We got the QNH, those are the main things. And so let's go ahead. We're at top of descent now. I'm just going to clear out this caution here. A couple of in-up systems there. Hopefully we don't lose any more. Alright, top of descent then. We're just going to go straight down to 4,000 feet. We'll go into managed mode so the Airbus can get us there as per the arrival procedure. And then from there, idle. I have turned the icon off here, the aircraft icon, when it comes to our approach, because again, I deem that as cheating. Can of course enable it for the arrival, seeing as we're at managed mode anyway. So we'll turn it off. So I'll have to leave this page here. So it's 93 degrees on the track. And we should have the circles. Yes, they are indeed. They are drawn. So let's take a look. Just remind ourselves on this view what's going on one last time. So here's idle. This is the end of our arrival. That's where the autopilot's going to take us to. We're going to come off the approach at that point, or rather come off the arrival and begin our visual prescribed approach. I will put it into the bird and we'll follow the procedures from then on, which is not this line. We need to head out from idle. And let's go ahead and show it here. On a heading, or a track should I say, 093 degrees. So again, ignoring the green line, we'll be heading this way. Being careful not to cross over this blue circle here, this radius, that is a 7.7 DME arc from AJO. It's actually 8 miles, so due to the restrictions on the Airbus, so we can actually touch this blue circle. We're just not going to cross into it. Once we get off this radial here, the first of these blue lines, that's this one here, 337, we'll turn left onto a heading of 038. Once we cross the second line, we'll then continue to turn left 022. We'll then head that way until we see the peaks on the left hand side, and then we'll begin the right hand turn. We'll also descend as we're going on this downwind leg. Starts at 4,000. We need to be 870 by Point Charlie. We'll aim for around, let's go for around 1,600 feet at this point here, give or take. We'll adjust the speed in managed mode for the approach. And then once we see that peak on our left hand side, which will be somewhere around here where my mouse is, we will start the right hand turn, being sure not to cross the blue dotted line. Alright, that is going to be it. Let's see if we can pull it off. I will of course have to keep referring to the chart. Memory being like a sieve and all that. Alright, we'll get the signs on, the wing lights on, the turn off lights, and we're about 10,000 feet now, so go ahead, put the landing lights on as well. Nose light will be our clear to land. Altimeters, I'm going to go ahead, go local now, because we're going to be real busy. 10:13, so it's pretty much standard anyway. Speed's got all that sorted. Check approach selection, so you can already see the Airbus isn't particularly happy that we are doing a visual approach that is not hooked up. If it does struggle going managed mode, we'll have to go manual based on that. It should be probably a little bit easier in the Boeing, just because you can be more precise with these DME arcs. just having a look. If we zoom out on the chart here, we can see this whole thing is behind a set of hills. There's like a valley behind it, or a set of mountains. I reckon it's behind these hills or mountains here that we're seeing. I reckon that's where the runway is, somewhere in there. There is actually an RNAV approach that threads you through. I think it's this little valley here. I was looking at it before. That would of course take all the fun out of what we're doing. If we come to the approach here, these are what we're doing, the visually prescribed Alpha 20, but you see there is actually an RMP Yankee for 20 as what we're talking about. 20, there we go. And that's what I'm saying there. That threads you through that little gap, the lowest point over the hills, which is, you know, very nice. The wonders of technology, you know, especially in low visibility, that it lets you do that. But again, this is what we want. So we're not too far away now. Speed restriction 220. I think we may as well drop it back to 180 knots, seeing as that's a restriction further on. And then I can just purely focus on the track. I wonder why the terrain stuff only shows ahead of the aircraft on nav mode, because it's not a radar. It's the, you know, it's the information on the terrain database, so it should be able to see behind the aircraft just as well as in front. I'm not sure what that limitation is about, or if it's just not simulated right. Also, you see, I've always wondered these little lines as though it is like a radar, but all right, we're going to get busy. So there is the restriction. We may as well switch into nav mode ourselves, seeing as we need to be able to see in all directions. 224,000 feet, and we're just going to let it drop down to 180. We are below the eyebrows, so I'm going to go ahead flaps 1. And let's drop it ways back now to 180. Hopefully we don't get any more in-up systems, because that would be... You know, the other day I did a flight and I turned the failures up. I was wanting there to be more failures. I don't think I actually got any random failures at all. I turned them way down today because I didn't really want them, and I thought, you know, if something little crops up, whatever. It appears to have been the case. I actually got 2 of them, or at least they're related in some way. Alright, let's go to open descent to make sure we hit this at 4,000. And we may go on to... Let's go into heading mode and get the bird out. There we go. And so idle just inside 5 miles. Once we get there, it's a track 093. It doesn't actually allow for the turn, so we're going to have to make our turn before we get to idle. Let's actually go max zoom just for now. There's 4,000 feet. I'm going to go flaps 2. We're below the eyebrows there. Quite heavy still.
100 above.
And of course, minimums we have to be able to see. Alright, let's go for it. 093 degrees. It's actually probably a little bit too tight.
Minimum.
There's minimum, and we can definitely see the ground. Actually, I'm just wondering if it's... Do we have line of sight on the airfield? I think we do. Yes, we do. It's over there. So whichever way you cut it, we can definitely see it. Alright, let's go for it then. 093. And again, we're ignoring any sort of flight path on here now. Let's go ahead out of the boards as well, because we're going to be busy there. It is a relatively long runway, so I'm going to go auto brake minimum. And so when we're flying on this heading, we cannot cross into this blue circle that's coming up to our right. This is the 7.7 DME arc from AJO. And once we cross the first line, which is this one here, the radial, we need to turn left onto heading 038 degrees. And it looks like they're actually not once we cross, but we need to smooth it out before 038. And then after the second one, it's 022. And we are going to begin our gentle descent now. Let's drop it down to 2,000. We said 1,600, so let's go. And we'll start a real shallow descent. We'll go 1.2 degrees for now and we'll pull. There's the turn already. Actually crept up a little bit too quick for me. I should have been paying more attention. 038, don't forget this line was exaggerated up to 8 miles because we couldn't put 7.7 in, so actually we're sort of right on the border there. There's 038 degrees. We'll continue there till we get to the second line. And there is the runway in sight. This big one is the one we're landing on in the other direction. Coming up to the second line for 022. I'm just going to increase the descent a little bit. Let's go for 2 degrees. And there's the second radial mark there. There's 022 on the track. Push the range out a bit. And so this next restriction, we was not allowed to leave the protected area, which was this circle we drew there. And that represents this line here, the 4.2 DME arc from AC. AC again being the ILS DME for the runway. And again, the circle is limited to 4 miles, so we can actually just about touch it and cross it by an inch or so, no more. I'm actually going to increase my descent rate even more. What's the missed approach actually? Oh, there is no missed approach if I recall. Oh, it's just turn right 212 degrees. Up to how high? 3,000 feet. I'll just wait till we're a little lower. Let's increase down to 3 degrees now. I've got to reduce speed even more. Let's go 160. I'm going to set this now to missed approach height. There we go, 3,000 feet. We're continuing to descend. That intended to be 1,600. These are the high points that we were seeing on the approach chart. And it's basically once we're alongside this that we're to begin our turn to final. It's going to happen awfully quick now. I'm going to dump the gear. There's flaps 3. I've got to let go of the autopilot now. And there's the turn. I'm basically going to try and skirt that blue dotted line I drew for myself on the circle. Let's slow down even more and go flaps full. I'm a little bit higher than I ideally wanted to be. Actually got another fault here. There's a bunch of faults. We've just got engine 2 reverser. We're going to have to ignore that. I think the mean time between faults on this is backwards.
1,000.
It's actually given us more faults. rather than increasing the mean time between the faults. Anyway, we'll make it. Right, so landed checklist then. Gear down, flaps full. Auto brake minimum, speed brake is armed. We have the reverser fault there, and so we're going to go with idle reverse. And with that, we'll assume clear to land. We'll put all the forward facing lights on. Should have had the landing lights on already, but I always like to, oh, they were on. I always like to say better late than never. Alright, looks like runway's dead ahead of us. That was actually not too bad at all. Never done that before. Does then say, I believe, to, you know, look at the pappies. And it's a little steeper than usual. I think it said 3.7 degree final approach profile if you follow the pappies, but we'll do it. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the flight directors.
500.
Going to get rid of the auto throttle as well.
400. 300. 200. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 10, 5.
Single reverse deployed. I think we'll switch it up to auto brake medium. And we'll go ahead and get the fan on. Idle reverse and manual braking. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Napoleon Bonaparte near Ajaccio, France. My best attempt at a pronunciation of it. Seen there the visually prescribed track for runway 20, and that's the visually prescribed track Alpha there, beginning at idle. A lot of fun, and certainly gives you something to think about. Hope you enjoyed it. Go give it a go, and until next time from me here on the island in the Airbus A321neo, take care. Bye bye.